Hello, everybody. I'm Craig Wolfley, and welcome to another great adventure with Arthur Moats and myself as we head off into footballism and what's happening with the Steelers, of course, your favorite Pittsburgh Steelers. Arthur, how are you, my friend?
Come on, man. Another week, another day that I get to join you on camera. Oh, baby, I'm in heaven right now, man. Can't go wrong with this at all. How about yourself, though?
Well, the only thing I can say is I don't think you've ever had a bad day in your life. Does that include training camp too, my friend?
Hey, as long as I was alive doing training camp, you are absolutely right. Hey, any day that I'm, part of the conversation and not being viewed, I'm always happy, baby. Straight like that.
I love it. Well, the big news right now coming around, of course, is that the salary cap has been set for this year. Now there's a 8% reduction, and without getting into all the bells and whistles, and let's face it, I flunked math twice. This is not my specialty, capology and all that sort of stuff. That's all for the bean counters. But the cap has been lowered and set at 182.5 mil. Mm-hmm. And I know that's like a nice drop, like I said, the 8% and all. But what hits me even more is I think about my day in 1980 when I came to the Steelers, and I couldn't even conceive of a $182.5 million cap. First, there was no cap. And second, my first year salary was 37.5, just 37.5.
Well, oh man. So, I don't want to do this, but just to give the audience context, you were 37.5. Now, what year was that for you? Your rookie year? What year was that?
1980.
1980. So for me in 2010, as my rookie year, my entry salary was $330,000. So you see, yes, very from back then. But if you look at what it is in 2021, those guys as rookies are going to make $610,000. So just to give context on how much is ballooned from my time to your time, and then obviously from my rookie year to the guys coming into this year's rookie class. I mean, you can see business is definitely doing well for the NFL, man.
What's funny is my last year in the league was 91. I played 12 years. Mm-hmm. My 12th year, I made what you made as a rookie coming in. That was the most I'd ever made, somewhere right around there. Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Jeez.
Man.
It's the truth, but that's what we always talk about. You always hear me say it over and over again. I appreciate y'all laying down the foundation so we can stand on your guys' backs. And now this next generation is standing on my group's back. Either way, that's how it's supposed to be, not just in sports, but in life, right? You pay it forward for the next group and they can reap those benefits. And, you look up at the end and you're like, man, we were both a part of what's going on right now where these guys are getting these more robust contracts and stuff as soon as they get in the league.
No question about it. I know at the end of my rookie year, I came home, went back to Buffalo Orchard Park, New York. Actually, that's where I'm from. Okay. I showed up with my Trans Am, all right, my lazy boy chair and a butt kicking stereo. That's all I had to show for my rookie year.
Well, those are essentials right there. Come on, man. You don't need much more than that.
No doubt about it. All right. Now, the Steelers are under the cap in free agency. Okay. That's the good news. The bad news is that there's not a lot that they are under the cap. So the free agency ain't going to be big, but we've got a couple of free agency signings already. Well, essentially, when you're talking about, you signed J.C. Hassenauer, very important. Tell me about him.
Yeah, man. JC, you think about what JC was able to do when he came in limited opportunities. Obviously, with Marquise Pouncey had missed some time. He stepped in at center. We also saw him take some snaps at guard as well. Very versatile. And when you think about the way this roster is currently constructed from a salary cap standpoint, you don't have a lot of flexibility to go out and get more, marquee names in free agency to address the interior part of your offensive line. So this is a high quality signing because JC has proven that he can come in and give you quality snaps. Now, to me, he's right in that mix of role player to just being a starter. And obviously we'll see what he can grow into in a more expanded opportunity. But when you're able to get a guy like JC who has positional flexibility, who has familiarity with this team and this division, and you're able to get him for a very, very team-friendly price, to me, I just think that that's the mark of a good signing because your roster isn't going to be filled with only superstars. You're going to have role players. You're going to have just regular starters. Not everybody's a Pro Bowl and not everybody's an all-pro, but you have to have these type of guys to fill in the holes. And I think that this is a really good signing.
It's interesting because you hit on something that's really perfect that a lot of people don't understand. It's one thing to be a guy that can come in and plug and play. A guy that has got limited experience and so forth. It's another to be that starter from 1 to 16 when you're going the long haul. You're the man. You got to be prepared. You got to be ready week in, week out. You never get too high, never get too low, and you've got to ride that in between. It's a different thing when you are just playing intermittently and show your wares, so to speak, intermittently, where another coordinator, maybe he ain't got his eye on you until
there we go.
He gets his eye on you. Look out.
Well, see, that's exactly what I was thinking too from the defensive side of it, right? I said a lot of times you run into this issue where a guy looks really good in limited snaps, mainly because of the minimization of exposure to negativity, right? If he's only out here for one game here, another game there, you're not going to have to deal with teams trying to game plan around you. You're not going to have to deal with teams really making you the focal point and looking at you as potentially the weak link on this offensive line. Now, coming into this 2021 season where you could legit be the starter. As it stands right now, who is the other center on this roster? It's you, JC. So understanding that, teams will make it a more of a focal point early on. If he is the starter day one, they will make it a focal point to test him to see, if he's up to par. Now, he's going to get this opportunity. He'll obviously have to defend them off. If he does that, then he can go ahead and, really turn this thing into a nice career. But if he doesn't, understand that it's only going to get worse. They're only going to keep attacking you. So if you're JC, understand the gift and the curse of this scenario and make sure you are preparing, because that's going to be the big thing. Preparation is key in scenarios like this.
That's no question about it. It's funny that you say that. My first year of starting was my second year in the league. And we played the Dolphins, and they ran this Mo U and Mike U on the inside. And I got benched 3 times. I set the all-time Steeler record for getting benched 3 times in one game. I mean, it was unbelievable. And so the next week we're playing the New Orleans Saints in New Orleans, My line coach said to me, took me aside, said, Craig, this is all about how long you're going to last in the league. Because right now, I forgot who the defensive coordinator was. It might have been Wade Wilson. I can't remember. But so-and-so is sitting there. He's looking at this, and he's watching you screw up each and every Mike and Mo, you and me game on the inside on a 3-4. And you know who he's going to come after? You.
Absolutely.
You better be ready for the test, and they're going to keep coming at you until you shut it off. And they actually ran 5 or 6 of them in the first half. And thankfully, I was up to the task and didn't screw them up like I did the week before. But that's essentially what it is, man. They will come after you. When those coordinators smell blood in the water, they keep after you.
Without a doubt. I had a coach once tell me at the professional level, man, the difference in terms of your adjustments, the difference, at the different levels in high school, you correct it the next game. Collegiately, you'll correct it at halftime. In the NFL, you have to correct it the next play because they will come right back until you stop it. It is crazy, man.
That's a great word. You put high school, next game.
College, look at the next game,
play.
That's how it is, man. Because at this level, we're also just in tuned, and we know it's such a detail-oriented game that when you have one weak link and it's a flaw like that, if that person doesn't address it, you have to take advantage of it. You have to keep going back to it. So hopefully JC is, understanding of this situation, and knowing the coaches on that staff, knowing Coach Tomlin, he's going to reiterate that to him. Knowing Adrian Clem, he's going to reiterate that to him. I think, man, the guys that are around him, like David DeCastro, is going to reiterate that to JC as well. And ultimately, it's going to be on JC to take that advice and really appreciate what they're doing for him, because it's nothing worse than you going out there and you not expecting that. And then it happens. Now you're just caught, unprepared, and it's going to look really bad. So hopefully JC is taking heed to this information.
to quote my offensive line coach in college after a meeting one time, he said, men, the train may only come around once in your entire stay here. You better be ready to get on board when it comes around. Exactly. So.
And think about that, Wolf, right? How many guys have we seen that were either role players or fringe starters? They got an opportunity and they weren't prepared for it. And we saw that opportunity never come back to them again. In the NFL, it happens like that. When you talk about a draft every year where they're bringing in another 300 prospects, where you have a combine every year where they're looking for your replacement, you can't afford to let these type of opportunities pass you by. If you're not already viewed as a starter, these are the chances you have to take advantage of. These are the opportunities that you have to come in here and say, hey, all right, this might be my only opportunity to start right now. I have to make it look good. Me speaking from personal experience, I always go back to my first year here in Pittsburgh in 2014. My first 2 games, I think I saw 6 snaps defensively. At the time, Jason Rose and Jarvis Jones were the starters, the every down players. Jarvis gets hurt in Carolina, 3rd game of the year. I get my opportunity. If I'm not prepared, if I'm not mentally and physically prepared, man, and I go in here and blow that opportunity, I'm not sitting here with you right now. They're going to go out there and they would have brought in multiple players to come in here and take over since Jarvis wasn't going to be available for a substantial amount of time. But because I was prepared, because I was able to go out there and make a couple of plays, it changed the perspective of how they viewed me and ultimately allowed me that chance to make the most of this. And obviously we saw how it turned out for me. But for JC, I'm like, this is a very similar situation, man. Take advantage of it, because if you do, it can be very rewarding for you, man.
Let me think. Was that a 2 or 3 sack game for you in Carolina?
Should have been 1.5. I had the first one. I think it was like my first 3 plays in there. I had my sack on Cam Newton, and then obviously I had a couple more hits on him and stuff like that. But it was like I said,
a big night for you.
It was a big, absolutely, and it was I think Sunday Night Football. So it was like that nice, welcome to the Steelers coming out party, man. So it was definitely good for me. But it only worked out that way because of the preparation. If I allowed myself, when I wasn't getting the playing time early on, to get discouraged, then, ultimately say to myself, well, I don't need to prepare anymore because I'm not going to get on this field. When that opportunity got called, I would have, blew it. But for me, I was prepared in that moment and is able to take advantage of it. So I'm hoping that JC can do the exact same thing, because you love to see these type of stories. How similar could this story be to a Mike Hilton, where you come in as an undrafted guy, but you scratch and claw and you do whatever it takes to earn yourself a substantial contract? He can be one of those guys, but it all starts with your preparation.
Well, then tell me what you think. What's your thumbnail on Marcus Allen? Because we saw him get some playing time last year, of course, with Devin Bush, the unicorn, going down. Then you have the story of Robert Spillane coming in, and one of the most legendary hits.
Oh, man.
Great franchise. Yes. When he took on Derrick Henry and dropped him like a bad habit, that was just tremendous. And then, of course, Robert going down, it paved the way really for an opportunity to Marcus Allen to come out and throw his name in the hat.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously he did well enough that the team decided to reward him with a contract extension. Now, the thing that's intriguing about Marcus, obviously he has a safety background, even dating back to his collegiate days. He would play in the box, but he's still a safety at heart. But watching him on tape, I love his athletic ability. I love his sideline to sideline and what he's able to do from a coverage standpoint. And I was still at times impressed with the mentality that he had from a physical standpoint. Now, granted, he's still limited there. Just, you have to give your time, your body time to adapt to being in the box, right? He does need to get a little bit stronger. But to see him at least not turning down contact, because you run into that issue a lot. You know this, Wolf. When you start getting those little guys playing in the box, you get the ones that invite contact and the ones that will try to do everything in their power to avoid contact. Marcus was inviting it, and I love that. Now, like I said, for him, he just has to get a little bit more lead in the pencil. That's it, man. He get a little bit more girth on him, and I think that he can definitely compete in there and make it interesting. But I love the idea of him coming back, at least if you're going to use him as, at worst case scenario, your sub package linebacker, your cover only linebacker. If he comes in and that's his role next year, I don't have an issue with that. But I just think that if you can get him stronger and he can potentially put on a little bit more muscle to stay in that box, you could have something special there.
I agree with you. That's one of the things I find so exciting. Look, if I'm Marcus Allen, I am supersetting squats with manhole covers on the bar, doing sets of 5. And immediately after, I go to Golden Corral and just have at it. Just kill everything in the place that I can. And I do this multiple times. That's how you get big. By the way, that's how I saved Tunch Ilkin's career, because I told him, I said, listen, you can't be a pencil neck. You got to eat big. You want to get bigger. Yeah. And you know what? Look what happened. But the fact
absolutely.
the thing about it is you see a young guy like him, he can grow into that. Like you said, I like the words, your terminology invites the opportunity for physicality, and I like that. And I think another guy that I just keep, UG3, Ulysses Gilbert.
Yes.
Right? UG3. This guy he's tantalizes you with that, that gifts that God has given him. But the injury bug has hit him a little bit.
Yeah, without a doubt. When you watch Ulysses, it's so reminiscent for me of Cam Sutton. You think about Cam Sutton early in his career, you saw potential, but you also saw injuries. You think about him tearing his hamstring the last preseason game of his rookie year. That put a damper on that first season. Second year, still dealing with injuries. So you could see flashes, but never enough consistency. But then once he got healthy, you saw what he was able to do in his versatility playing both inside and outside cornerback. And now he's in line to get a nice contract. I think that, man, when you talk about Ulysses Gilbert, he is in a similar conversation. He is a guy that has shown potential, has shown flashes. We know from an athletic ability standpoint what he possesses, but he has to stay healthy. And we know that's part of the name of the game, right? You got the guys who have great ability, but they can't stay on the field. Then you got the guys who can stay on the field, but sometimes they're limited a little bit from an ability standpoint. If UG3 can just find that common ground where he can be more available, he's a guy that is in that mix. The way we talk about Marcus Allen, UG3, I think, is a little bit further ahead because of the physicality, because of the natural linebacker body on him. But the biggest thing is he has to be available. We've heard coaches say your best ability is your availability at times. And right now, he just has to find ways to be more available because athletically, man, you're going to be hard pressed to find a guy that can do more than him from a physical just attribute standpoint.
I think it's a great summary of the young man. I'm excited. He's got, few guys had that suddenness of movement like he's got. That ability
twitchy, to go, super twitchy, man.
Very twitchy. Yes. Twitchy like a sneeze, as they say. Let me ask you something. Now that Big Ben is settled, okay, we got the issue settled. Yes. So we got Big Ben coming back. All right, so besides the fact that they'll continue making the Roethlisberger, which is one of my favorite sandwiches on the north side. Okay. The fact is, you've got Big Ben coming back for another year. What do you think this means to the Steelers offense, my friend?
Man, this means a couple of things. And I'll say this in a positive, from a positive standpoint. Number one, it takes away a major need for this offseason, right? We talked about prior to them getting the deal done with Ben, we didn't know if they were going to need to draft a quarterback at 24 or if they were going to need to find a quarterback through free agency to come and compete to be the starter this year, whether it was with Mason or Dwayne Haskins, right? But now you don't have to worry about that because Ben gives you the best chance to win right now. It doesn't matter if you were drafting a quarterback. We know as it stands today, Ben would have given you the best chance to win. So now that you have that taken care of, now you can focus on your other pressing needs. How do you upgrade the running back position? What other moves are you going to make on the offensive line? Not only are you able to focus on those, but now you also have an idea of how much money you're going to be able to work with. Shout out to Omar Khan and the Capology for that, right? Being able to convert Ben's new deal to 90% of it being as a signing bonus, so you get more flexibility, freeing up, $15 million in cap space this year. That was huge. So when you think of that, now you're able to find different bargains. But that all started because you were able to get Ben back under center. Now, as it pertains to the on-field stuff, I think for me, watching Ben again, watching that wild card game again, watching him against the Colts again and the Bengals again, the biggest thing that I keep coming back from, or that I keep taking away from those performances, is less is more for him. He shows flashes in all three of those games. He showed his good and he showed his bad. But the good stuff, when I look at it, it just shows that if you can cut down the amount of attempts, get them out of the 40s, 50s, or 60s in some cases, if you can narrow that down to 30s or less, I think you get a more productive version of him. Because when his arm is fresh, when he looks like he's not tired, he can make every throw on the field. You talk about the deep out, 20-yard out from the one hash to the field. He can make that throw. He makes that in the Browns game in the second half. You talk about showing touch. He shows that on his pass to Claypool and Deontay Johnson in the Colts game, along with the Bengals game. Right. So you see all of those things. But the problem is when you have him throwing it too much, his arm gets tired. It gets fatigued. And that was the biggest difference the first 11 games versus the last 6. They got away from running the ball. They got away from being more physical and limited his attempts. And it went to him just having full reign to just throw it as much as he would like. And at this stage in his career, that's not going to be the most productive outcome.
I would agree with you fully. I think that's a great summation of what occurred last year. And one of the things I think I'm most excited about this year, and when I think, you think of Adrian Clem coming into this position now with the offensive line and what all this means for the offense for the Steelers. First thing I look at, I say, you know what? This is a rebirthing of the running game. I think job one is a 2-chin strap approach to refiring up that run game. Let's get that eight-cylinder 4-wheel drive thing.
There we go.
There. I think that's number one thing. What say you?
No, man, when you think about it, physicality has always been the Steelers' brand. Physicality has been the reason why teams fear them, why the AFC North as a whole is so tough to play in. And you even think back in those glory years, right? The killer B years of 2014 to 2017. As much as we threw the ball, we were still a run-first outfit. We would still utilize multiple tight ends, David Johnson, Matt Spaeth, right? Jesse James. You would see how they would give you a 2 tight end set, Rosie Nix. And that physicality and that ability to run the ball is what opened up the passing game so much more, right? This past year, we got away from that. This past year, it was more, we're going to throw the ball to hopefully open up the running game. And with that approach, it doesn't bowl from a same physical standpoint. It doesn't threaten you the same way. And we saw coordinators adjust to that. If they can get back to that physical outfit, if they can get back to being a tough team up front, especially, I think that opens up this offense so much more because we know we have the receivers outside. Yep. That talent is there. It's not going away. But you have to make these teams respect the run because right now what they're facing, I mean, some of these coverages is disrespectful, but they know, well, hey, man, they're not really going to challenge us this way. So we can play this. We can give you this single high look. We know you're not going to challenge us here. We can do this right here. So it's certain things that from a coverage standpoint that this team was facing that it was just blatant disrespect, but it was because of how one-dimensional this team was last year.
I think the second thing that's going to happen this year, you go to training camp, or if they have training camp, I wonder if they're going to have it in Latrobe. I'm kind of excited to find out about it.
Oh, man, I hope so.
But the fact is, one of the things we always did in that first day, they made us, Chuck would come and coach us up on our 3-point stance. A 3-point stance.
Fundamentals, yes.
You got to get back to grabbing dirt, coming off the ball, get your play action and your play acting. Your play acting is your screen game.
Yes.
You got to make those defensive guys think, oh, you're beating me. Oh, you got the uppercut. Oh, I'm getting beat. And then, whammo, you run the screen, right? So
listen, I can't stand you offensive players in your screens. I'm just throwing it out there now, okay? I love you, Wolf, but I can't stand the screen because like you just said right there, you think you're winning. You think you got the best rush going. And before you know it, it's like, oh, you would let me do this? Oh, man, come on. Now I got to run further.
That's exactly it. But think about it. You got your play action. You're coming off the ball, 3-point stance. You make the defensive down guy believe, okay, they're running the ball. You get the linebackers sucking up. You create some of that vacuum, that void in the second level behind the linebackers in between the safeties. And you're like going, okay, we need more of that because that goes right to number 3. You got to go long. I think the long ball's coming. I think the Chase Claypool, the top shelf Canadian bacon is back, and we're going long ball.
Hey, and this is the thing. I believe that all of that is available to them. And as long as you're minimizing Ben's attempts, he will be a lot more efficient and effective on his deeper passes. It is still there. He still has an arm that can make these throws, but you can't have him making these throws, like I said, 40, 50 times in a game. It's going to burn him out. And we don't want that. But as a whole, man, you get back to just, like you said, that screen action, the running game. I mean, the screens in themselves, they're so effective because, like you said, number one, you get the surprise element of it, right? You're catching the defense off guard. It's more of a counter, off-tempo style play. But it also tires out defenders because of the effort and energy it takes to, number one, rush the quarterback. But then once you realize, oh, I've been fooled. I've ran 5 yards and wasted this great rush for nothing. Now I got to go chase this player, this running back, or this screen because the screen is hardly ever stopped by the secondary. The screen is stopped by the guy that's covering down, the D lineman that is chasing on his pursuit. And that's why it's so tough because that D lineman might pursue it the first time, but when you run it, that second time, a couple plays later, or, and things like that, now they're not as fresh. Now they're going to start second guessing, and all you need is it to pop one time. And you think about whether it's a running back screen or a legitimate wide receiver screen. How many times do we see Chase Claypool take a wide receiver screen and get 30 yards, get 40 yards? We know what he's capable of. They just have to get back to making that more of a focal point in this offense. Don't forget about it. And we're not talking noun passes, because noun passes are different than screen passes.
Right.
Screen passes are more developing. You get the element of surprise, and you get everything to happen the way we just broke it down. A noun pass, that's a glorified RPO. It's not going to have the same impact and effect as your legitimate screen passes. But either way, if you can filter in those type of things, this offense can be way more productive.
Excellent. Now let me ask you, since you were talking about being a little bit tired, all right, the NFL is considering going back to the old sudden death rules. Oh, you know what? I love it. Why mess with something that was great? Why did you mess with it? Look, I understand, you don't want ties and stuff and so forth and all that, but Gadzooks, the coin toss, that was drama. That was, if you want the game, come out there and stop it. If you lose the coin toss, if you really want the game, you win the coin toss, you better take advantage of it. But the fact of the matter is, I love that sudden death stuff. And the other thing is this, like we were talking about earlier, I said to you, if you're skiing, all right, we used to ski, our family, we ski, right? When's the most vulnerable? When's the most dangerous time to ski? On that last run of the day. You're like going, I'm a little tired, but I want to get one more run in. That's when you get hurt. It's the same things, in the game. And to me, the more you can do to cut down what, goes into overtime, I think the better for the health of the players.
Without a doubt. And for the people that will bring up, well, collegiately, they play all these overtimes and it's fine. Remember, a collegiate roster is 30, 40 times. Sometimes you got 30 to 40 more players than an NFL game day roster. Collegiately, your starters on offense and defense don't play special teams. In the NFL, your starting linebacker is also your starting L3, your starting right guard on punt, and your starter on kick return. So you can just see from a usage standpoint, you're getting a lot more out of these guys from an NFL standpoint. And the more you have them out there, the more you have them on that field in one setting like that, the higher the risk element goes up. But the other thing is this. Overtime isn't meant to be fair. For the people that always complain, and this is another thing that I always just couldn't understand.
Oh, hit it. Go.
It has to be fair. Both offenses have to get the ball. I'm sorry. When did it just become football was only offense? I didn't know defense didn't have a role in this thing anymore.
Right.
I was under the impression that it doesn't matter offense or defense. We've seen Coach Thomas send out the defense after winning a coin toss. Baltimore Ravens 2019, and we saw them get the stop, get the ball back, and ultimately have a chance to get in position to score. Why do people act like that's so far-fetched and that can't happen? I mean, we saw even when in New Orleans Saints, right, 2 years ago, where everybody talks about the pass interference, no call on Roby Coleman. Everybody forgets that prior to that, Drew Brees threw an interception. He threw an interception on his first possession in overtime. Defenses are allowed to make plays too. It is a team sport for a reason. But overtime, at the end of the day, is not meant to be fair. It's to find a winner. That's what it's for. So with sudden death overtime, I'm fine with that. You put more responsibility on both parties. If you get the ball first on offense, you better score. If you're on defense first, do your job. To me, I don't have an issue with any of that.
Perfect. All right, now this is like we're mind melding here, man. We got the mind meld going on because you're setting me up, you're teeing it up for the next one, which is, of course, now they were talking about reviewing or challenging roughing the passer. And I'm thinking to myself, no, don't do more of this, not more of this. Number one, for an offensive lineman, you don't want to be in that picture. As they're running the review and the commercial, I mean, you got that going on and you're seeing yourself getting driven back. Smacking the quarterback. You don't want that. So for my brotherhood out there, you don't want that. But the fact of the matter is, it's like last year, was it the pass interference 2 years ago? Then all of a sudden now you've got this drag on every sort of situation that comes up. And again, I think it's like you said, you can't arbitrarily rejudge every moment that happens on the football field. It's just, it kills the game.
And if you slow it down, you can make anything look egregious. That's the other thing I've realized with replays. Absolutely. But I mean, I'm not even surprised. You know why? Because you offensive players, you glamour guys, y'all need every single call to go your way. We've already talked about how offensive pass interference has become null and void. It doesn't exist, even though we've seen countless receivers push off all the time. We understand that pick routes don't matter anymore either. We understand that y'all have to get every single call. So I am not surprised that they are looking into potentially reviewing roughing the passer, because how many times have we seen a quarterback, oh, it was a bad play, but it was roughing the passer, they just didn't call it, and then we get this whole uproar. But we're going to ignore the high-low. We're going to ignore this hold by this offensive lineman. You know how I feel about roughing the passer and just anything that is slighted toward the offense. I'm not a fan of it at all.
I was afraid you're going to stand up wearing your daughter's tutu or something like that. You know,
man. It just drives me nuts. Like, seriously. And we know how it's going to happen, right? If they were to do it, as soon as you get any type of questionable play where it was a turnover, right? A guy threw a pick, but he got hit, and they slow it down 10 times. It takes 10 minutes for this replay. Once you look at it that many times, then it's going to be, well, yeah, you know, he made a little contact with his left pinky and he grazed the face mask by rule. Roughing the passer, give him 15 yards, keep the ball. That's the part that drives me nuts with this stuff, man. But you know that's what they would get to, especially early on in the season. They would definitely get to that, man.
Oh, I hope that they don't do it. It's just going to, again, drag the game down. All right, to wrap this scintillating session up, I got news that we might see Gronk on that cable show, My 600 Pound Gronk on 600 Pound Life. How can it be, my friend? But if you know that it's not Rob Gronkowski, well, it would be Gronk, the baby rhino at the Tampa Bay Zoo, so named for Gronk, who happens to weigh 600 pounds, whose parents, the mom is 4,000 and the dad is 5,000 pounds. So this guy is going to grow big. But they have a baby rhino at the Tampa Bay Zoo called Gronk.
How fitting. I like it. You know, at this point, you just got to appreciate it. I just appreciate it because it's crazy. It's crazy.
You ever go? Have you ever taken your kids to like one of those petting zoos or anything like that?
I have, yes.
Mm-hmm. Oh, did you ever get one of those pythons, those big things? Oh, I got a picture.
I don't mess with pythons.
It was a mistake. I got. Oh man, I was terrified. This thing was 12 long and about 150 pounds, 200 pounds. And I had it on my shoulders. My daughter, Megan got me into it. She says, Dad, let's get a picture. No, we don't want to do that. And she goes, come on, what are you scared about? Oh, Dad's not scared. Yeah. This was back in my playing days, right? I got a picture of me, Arthur. It looks like on my face, you could have a caption that says, take the picture, get me out of here. I'm terrified.
Listen, I've taken one picture with the python. This would have been my freshman year of college.
Oh, in
the picture, you see the look on my face. It says I'm smiling, but I am in fear for my life.
Yes, absolutely.
It's clear as day. It's like, yeah.
All right, Arthur, thank you so much for joining me. That was a great time. Appreciate it. And we'll see you next week.
Hey, man, always looking forward to it, baby.
God bless everybody out there. Go
yes,
Steelers.
Indeed.